All right, AI code writing has finally arrived, and it's only going to get better every single day. If you tried it, today is Monday, June 16th, 2025. If you tried it 3 weeks ago, it's probably better than it was. And if you tried it 3 months ago, then it's a whole different ball game. So the big change is that agents now interact with the LLMs to write code, and the LLMs just get better and better working with agents. So the point of this video is for my friends and colleagues. Uh, I would like to stress like it's time to get on this train because it's leaving the station, and we as developers still have huge advantages in leveraging this stuff over people who do not have experience developing software at the code level. But it's it's you can't not use this and be even 1/10 as productive as you could be otherwise. That is my strong opinion. I have opinions. I'm going to speak about them. uh, I'm totally shocked, honestly, that smart, very capable people I know um, are not are not aware of the state of things today. They're doing their jobs. They have their heads down. They have a method that works. They think AI is only autocomplete. It is not. There's emergent behavior. That would be we could create 1,000 hours of video about how that all works, but it's far beyond autocomplete. But rather than believe me, let me show you. So this is what I'm going to go over real quick. Enough on the opinions for the moment. I'm creating an app called Cider Press that basically I want to be able to unleash or free all my Apple voice memos that I use to make journal entries. So I'm creating an app for that, and then I want to, ultimately have AI interact with like my journal. But anyway, more about the app. So the tech stack is Tori, which my friend and colleague Bob turned me on to. It uses Rust and React to create native apps quickly. I don't know Rust and I don't know React, but that doesn't matter anymore. I'll show you what I've done, and it's you know ridiculously amazing in terms of not understanding these languages. The tools are Cursor and Warp, and I'll show those. What it took, I'll show a demo of not just the app, but actually adding a feature using AI that I haven't added before, and then talk about taskmaster.dev briefly. So here's Tori. I just thought I'd mention that real quick. It's basically, like I said, a platform that connects Rust and React and compiles into a deployable app, which is my goal, like a desktop app. All right, so let's show the app. So here we are. This is called Cider Press, and I did not create this layout. I did not. All I did was describe what I wanted and then continue to refine it through conversation. And it has created this completely functional app. This dark mode was a suggestion. My kids were sitting here. I was showing it to them, and they said, "Hey, it should have dark mode." And then I just asked the agent to add dark mode, and it did. Um, which is mind-boggling, even though this is only a switch in the manatees like the component framework. Still, some things are impressive. So anyway, if we start the migration, it gives us a nice little log um, and of what it's doing. Stats on the files that have been migrated from the internal SQLite and M4A wave files. So these are all the file names. So there's obviously a lot I want to add to make this cleaner. But the point is now you can actually liberate your voice memos just by clicking this button. And I have hundreds. This again, this statistics screen, I said, add these stats: the total number of files, the number that have been transcribed, the average time, or the average length of the files. I think that might be a little high. This is correct, like the total size of all the audio files, and so on. And all these components, I didn't even describe them. I just said I wanted these statistics, and it figured out the icons, how to total them, this graph, column graph. I'm not even sure what you call this component, but you mouse over and it shows how many audio files were created each year. This is based on some things that might need to be cleaned up a little bit, but it did all this stuff. I don't think I didn't even suggest a quick insight. Um, some of this, it's pretty amazing. And then this table is all the files that exist. And again, it created. I described the columns I wanted in the table, but it set up this pagination. It set up the layout. These columns were not initially sortable, and I said make them sortable, please. And it did that. It one-shotted a lot of the features I asked for. So anyway, that's the gist. Like, this is a fairly complex app. I can't really even estimate how long it would have taken me to create this in a language that I did know, like Java, but in a language I didn't know, like Rust and React, and using these Manatee components. I mean, months. And this took me, I would say, 3 pretty solid days, if that. And that's mainly because I'm learning how to use AI. And I've learned a lot. So this is Cursor. So this is the thing about Cursor is, it's an IDE. It was forked from VS Code. We all know that, probably, who are listening to this. Um, but Cursor itself is not really. I'm barely using it. What I am using is the agent that comes with Cursor that interacts with these different language models. So you can select the language model you want to use based on the task you have at hand. So if I have something pretty simple and quick, Gemini Flash at this point, again, everything, this is only relevant to today, everything will evolve quickly, but I might use Gemini Flash. Gemini Pro and Claude Sonnet 4 are both pretty amazing. And then you just let it go. So I have a task queued up here. I'll explain it in a second. But anyway, that's Cursor. And then this is Warp. This has been another essential tool for me. The command line is an art, and if you know what you're doing in terms of, maybe you don't need this, but I just can't imagine a scenario in my career where I've ever not needed this. Just didn't have access to it till now. So anyway, this lets you interact with, this is an AI enabled terminal, but it's super polished, and some of the things it can do, I mean, I'm only just starting to understand, but for instance, this is my project, and if I want to say, as an example, see all the audio files that have been created under here, maybe I it's suggesting something that I had already figured out. Like, maybe I kind of remember the syntax. At first I did just this, and it's not showing me what I want. So then I'm like, oh yeah, I got to escape the period here. Let's see. But then, is that going to work? There we go. So that worked, but that's only the .wav audio files. I also want, I want the other types, MP3, the M4A, etc. And honestly, I can't remember that syntax. So I would have to look it up. All the things we all know. Like, I won't go down the train of explaining the old way of doing things, Googling it, Stack Overflow. But now I can just say, list for me all the audio files under this directory. Just there. So what I did there is I switched it to AI command mode or whatever, and then you can just describe it in text. So it's figuring out what to do. Anyway, that's a simple example. Better one is like this platform I don't know, like, how do I run this app? Just tell me the command. So it might have the context. This is a Rust app. I mean, it probably does, but basically it's figuring it out. And so that's the command. That's the right one. That's what we want. npm run Tori dev. So there you have it. I think there have been some updates. In fact, I probably need to update this. Anyway, Warp's amazing. That wasn't a great demo, but it's key. And a lot of times when certain libraries are not loaded correctly that you depend on, that's when it really shines and it figures out, what version of npm and Node and Rust and everything else that you might actually need to get your work done. All right. Sorry, this is getting a little more wordy than I intended. So those are the tools. Yeah, I already mentioned what it took to create this. Oh, I was going to show also the Git repository. These are all the commits. There's not, for that whole app, there's not that many. Now, in some of these cases, I had to, especially the one tricky thing was using Whisper AI audio to text, because those libraries and tools are just pretty confusing and gimpy, and the Rust implementation was not super clear, but it figured it out eventually. So anyway, what I'm doing here is just copying in the very excited text messages from AI as the commit messages. And the agent will actually make these commits for you. In my case, I just went ahead and did it manually. But these are all the main commits. And, for an app of this magnitude, there's very few. And many of these are just for features I wanted that I didn't describe initially. Like here's one where I just asked it to make the columns sortable. So there you have it. What else? Oh yeah, let's go ahead and demo adding a feature. So the feature I want, we'll see if this works, but it'll be a real test. The feature I want now is when I transcribe one of these files, one of these audio files, and I'm looking for a pretty small one so it goes fast, like this one. Right now, it just kind of waits until it's done, but I'd like to switch this to an indicator that's saying it's being transcribed. The user can see clearly, and then when it's done, it should switch to the green transcribed. Right now, it doesn't do that. So here is what I'm requesting of the app. Now, when we transcribe a file, please go ahead and change the badge label to say transcribing now and change it to the color orange. And then once it's done, continue to change it to the same green transcribed successful status when completed. All right, so I got the feature working. I'm going to jump back there, but instead of I had to go back and forth about 3 times, and that all took about 15 or 17 minutes. And when editing this video back, it wasn't very interesting. Although, people who are trying to figure out how to use this stuff for the first time, it probably would be. Where's my history? But rather than have you sit through that 17 minutes of going back and forth, I thought I would go ahead and just mention that it did work and what it took. So basically, I described it. The app had it regressed a little bit because it was adding in some threading to get the button working correctly. And I'm going to switch back to where I demo that. But essentially, the threading caused the audio, an issue with the audio being transcribed. So I had to go back and say, okay, here's the error. It's no longer transcribing the audio. Fix that. And it did. This feature was a little bit more involved because it actually had to figure out the async model and change things at the appropriate time. But it did it successfully. And how long would that have taken me? A lot longer, I guarantee. And probably for most people, honestly. Even people who know Rust and React and the framework. So anyway, now I'll jump back into the video at the part that I cut off to save you from being bored. Declared victory, and so I just ran it again. Let's see how this does. Well, The screen doesn't seem to be blinking, even though I didn't tell it to fix that. So that's a good sign. Oh, I'm wrong. It did. Let's check warp. Oh, it is. It is successfully transcribing this. So should be done here in a moment or two. It's definitely not the fastest, but it's pretty accurate. And what I'm trying to do with this app is have it remain secure for as long as you want it to be secure. So, in fact, it will do everything on your local machine until I add some features to say, okay, now let's ask AI some questions about that. All right. That was successful. So, that took a little back and forth, but I think that is a very realistic representation of what it's like to add a feature in a tool of some relative complexity. A lot of the code bases that other people are working on are much, much larger. But I think if you have adequate tests and you sort of compartmentalize the changes that you want, there's a whole bunch of debate about, well, what changes did it actually make? You need to PR those and review them and make sure that they're good. But honestly, those things are true, but that's not where software is going. This is a strong opinion. I believe that essentially as companies both move more and more towards using these tools. Here, let's go back to opinions. I should have a slide just for the opinions. Here, maybe thought I could make that bigger. It was a stock deck. Obviously, I am not Jaden Smith. Anyway, back to opinions. I really think that this is where things are going, and that less technical people will be given tasks to update code. I mean, realistically, how many bosses say, can you add a feature? And you do, and then they ask, is the code clean? Like that. If you can introduce me to that manager, that is an amazing thing. No, that's not true. Many managers are concerned with that, but uh, less so when they're pressured from their higher ups and so on. It's just human nature. So, like, this is where things are going, and I do think tests are very important. But if it works, at some point, maybe an app of complexity would fall down. But you should be asking AI to refactor it. But really, I just is it worth it going through the code and understanding it? Well, maybe in some cases, but again, like I said, I do not know Rust at all. I don't know React very well, or TypeScript for that matter. Most of my experience and expertise is in Java, but I'm not using Java here at all. So to me, what's important is to work with the AI to get features working and stable. And I do want to add tests, lots of automated testing. Uh, but really, am I going to go through every change of the code? The answer is definitely not. Am I going to try to produce a high quality app? Yes. Uh, but that has not required looking at code at all. I'm a software developer with way sort of too many years of experience, one might say. And here we are. So again, there's not a task you couldn't ask it to complete. Can it complete the task? Maybe, maybe not. But if you break the task down, chances are it will, or if not today, very, very soon in the coming weeks or months, maybe next year. But, AI is exponentially improving. We haven't hit any real roadblocks from that progress as of yet, even though there are articles about such roadblocks. Apple likes to say that AI has its limitations because they're way behind. But that's it. So please get on board the train. Thanks for listening. I hope this has been somewhat enlightening for someone. But even if not, I had fun making it. So thanks.